You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 121 of Retired Racehorse Radio on the Horse Radio Network, part of Equine Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, Cashel Company, and Morton Buildings. Retired Racehorse Radio is your guide to the adoption, care, and training of the retired racehorse, brought to you in cooperation with the Retired Racehorse Project and New Vocations Racehorse Adoption Program.
On today's show, we take a deep dive into the world of the aftercare professional with three horsewomen who make a living by selling thoroughbred sport horse prospects. Winnie Morgan Nemeth and Dot Morgan from New Vocations Adoption Program brings us a special treat with the introduction of their new book, Track to Trail. Stay tuned.
And they're off on Retired Racehorse Radio, the podcast that is your guide to the adoption, care, and training of the retired racehorse.
This is Joy Orr in Detroit, Michigan.
And this is Kristen Kovach Bentley in Jamestown, New York, and you're listening to Retired Racehorse Radio.
Kristen, this has been the weirdest winter, but the days are getting longer. I'm here for it. It was 5:30 and I was bringing horses in. It was still daylight. So I'm staying optimistic.
Yeah, it's still like lights on while recording time.
Yeah,
that's
still
a thing. Fall when I forget, and then by the time we're done, I'm like, it is really dark in here. But
yeah, I'm sorry, environment, but the light has to stay on while we do this.
But yeah, it was nice. Like recording days are usually end up just being like a chores and a little bit of turnout, stretch your legs kind of day. Anyway, but yeah, I've been like kind of on a regular schedule of like
I've noticed that in your social, like you're actually getting your horse time in. And I feel like you've given your thoroughbred some time off, but they're not totally off the hook.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I'm like, listen, they have 23 and a half hours off. And because there's three of them, they only are working about 2 days a week each. So it's still quite light work. But yeah, they did have like December, they were like essentially off. And now they're just easing back into it. So I've ridden Jobber 3 times. Shorty's been long lined like 3 or 4 times. And I never know what we're doing with Wes. So Wes is existing.
He's living his best life as the center of your attention right now.
Yeah, the thoroughbreds have taught him to rear, not under saddle, before anyone's like, oh my God. No. Like when they all turned out, it's now becoming like Wes is like bouncing next to Shorty, trying to get Shorty to play with him. And Shorty's like, can you leave me alone? Like we're eating grass. They live out all the time in a dry lot, but then I let them out onto a bigger grass yard to like romp around. And Wes is like, play with me, play with me, play with me, play with me, play with me. And Shorty's like, stop. And nobody will go near Jobber because Jobber is very scary. But yeah, little 20-year-old Wes is like, look at the trick I learned. And he's like trying very hard to stand up on his back legs. I'm like, this is great. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
I secretly love it. Only
because very funny.
Well, I just want to imagine Wes like living his best life, being youthful and silly. Like this is probably his first chance ever.
I do think so. Yeah, because like I am confident that his life on the track, like most racehorses, he probably had a great life, great care, great grooms, great handlers. And I imagine that most likely based on the condition that he was in when my friend got him from the kill pen, that like, I don't think he was like mishandled under his Amish owners, but I don't think he probably was allowed to bloom and have a little personality. And now he has a great big personality. So I'm like, well, there we are. So yeah, he's a riot. He makes me laugh every day. I also speculate now that maybe the Amish took him to the sale because they were fearing for their own lives and not because he had outlived his usefulness. So that's a debate for another day. He's a maniac. I love him.
Yeah, but so fun. I enjoy watching all of the antics. Also, it's been nice because my horse has been injured. So we have not had a consistent schedule. It's not too serious. Yeah. Well, same injury is the thing. No. So we determined that she had a strained hamstring, if you will. We'll just summarize it that way. Her butt cheek was strained. Her butt. She hurt her butt. And it was just when we had we went from frozen ground to mud, and my guess is she either slipped getting up or she slipped just being out there doing whatever she's doing. And I'll still pick turnout over no turnout. She mentally is great. She has been enjoying cuddles, and we've been doing a lot of hand walking. I am doing light riding, like more rehab riding, so it doesn't heal stiff. And it's been nice, like work on our foundations, and she is moving better, like just off the seat, which I've been really appreciating. So I'm trying to look at the positives of this, but she did heal briefly where like we were trotting and acting very silly. There was a great reel of her being her full authentic self. But then the beautiful snow melted into slush of all things. And we think, because she had a very interesting wet mark on her side, and she's been in a blanket. So we think she slipped getting up after laying down, because my girl likes to nap.
Like wiped out.
Yeah. She's a hard napper. She will nap from about 10 a.m. to about 2 p.m.
Oh, girl.
She gets that beauty sleep.
You know what, though? That's a really good point you make. Like, I would, like, yes, I get that they do stupid stuff to themselves and turn out, but I would still much rather, like, take the chance and turn them out. Like, and
it's not a serious, like, it's a very minor heat. She's still moving fine. Like, she'll trot on her own. I don't make her do anything, but, you know, she's feeling good. I'm good with it. I don't think it's anything to stall rest for. I'm just keeping an eye on it.
For sure. If you stall rest, that sounds like the kind of injury that, like, she'd be like, now I'm stiff.
Exactly. Like, I'd rather her go out, kind of get her energy out. We hand walk for a few weeks versus she stall rested for a couple days, then goes out blazing. We don't need that. So, not the winter I thought we'd have, but we are working on a lot of good foundation things, revisiting habits, like being polite in the cross ties, both cross ties. She normally likes one. 2, we are testing.
That is okay. That set is not.
No, she likes 1 because she likes to look into the arena. She likes to watch everybody. And I mean, she's perfectly behaved when you do that. She's just like, mind's your own business. But when you put 2 on, she will paw and she glares at you. And she's like, this is not fun for me.
Yeah. Well, and I think like this is the winter. I'm really trying, like, I'm doing kind of the same thing, like really trying to stick myself to all the stuff I wish I worked on in the summer. You know, when I'm like, man, should have done that in the winter. Like last winter, we had more snow. So we rode around on the snow and practiced roping and stuff. And that was fun. And we haven't done that much this winter because it's been pretty muddy, which is fine because it's let me work on the herd sourness a little bit. And I don't know. It's really hard to know if I'm fixing it or not.
I'm dealing with that now too, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really every single like professional, non-professional horse person, like everybody I've spoken to.
You'll deal with it once.
Well, they're all like, ooh, that's hard to fix. And nobody has any other solutions. So I'm just doing my one horse works, one horse goes in, one horse stays out alone trick.
Yeah.
They're at least kind of learning to cope for that half hour or so.
I think mine, so it's not Astrid. Astrid could give 2 flying blue jays about what the other horses are really doing. Because for her, she's like, my person means she's a Pez dispenser. There are treats somewhere, and we're going to go do something fun. So that is what I'm trying to incorporate in my training horse that I now have, who is also a chestnut mare, who looks very similar to Astrid, but is very different than Astrid. Her name is Millie. We've talked about her. She's my student's horse, and she's in training with me. And Millie's like very, very chill for the most part, but she is very attached to Astrid, who does not reciprocate. So Millie will scream and she'll want to stay close to Astrid's or like be able to see Astrid. So she doesn't do anything horribly naughty, but for an 11-year-old, she does try to like turn around when she's not supposed to, or she'll kind of hop up, not a full rear, but just like a little hop up to go back to where she wants to be.
Yeah, I don't like that.
And she'll only do it once or twice, but no, it's not very
It's just enough to be like, I'm unsettled. Yeah.
Yeah, it's enough to be annoying. Like even for me, and I'm just like, stop that. So hoping to do the same thing I did with Astrid is we're doing a lot of positive reinforcement. So when she does do the right things, she gets lots of praise, and this horse loves a compliment. She loves being like scratched. She loves being told she's beautiful. She is very food oriented, like all of the things. So it's been getting a lot better. It's not perfect. But so far, we're just trying to associate like work can be play and it can be fun for her. And then when she gets in her groove and gets over her pity party, she actually is very lovely. But it is interesting. It made me appreciate Astrid's fitness getting on Millie, because it feels like I'm riding a duck.
Oh,
she waddles when she gets tired. We just give up. And I'm kind of really supporting her where Astrid like floats around. I'm like, man, that is some nice realization for me that my work paid off in Astrid.
Yeah, it is really fun, because right now I'm jumping between 3 different horses until the days get longer and Eric can ride again. And I'm like, oh boy, these are 3 different animals. Like,
yes,
they're all plenty fat for the winter, but my God, they are different.
It's crazy because you look at them and you get used to seeing them, and it's like you think you know them, and then
you're like, "This is just my guy," and then you get on the other one, and you're like, "Oh."
Like I've learned I can't ride. Yeah. I don't enjoy riding Astrid first and going to Millie. I prefer going Millie first and Astrid.
Yeah, you save the treat for last. No offense, Millie. I've never met you. No offense,
Millie. And she's lovely. She's super smart. She tries so hard, but my low back sometimes. I'm like, we got to get that core in shape. I can't carry us forever. But no, she's learning how to hold herself up in the canter. That's the next thing. We can go about 3 strides before we want to give up. So we are having a very
productive winter, though. I think I cantered last in September. So good for you.
I mean, I have an indoor, and I know that's a very nice perk. Sorry for everyone who doesn't. I didn't for a very long time. I know my privilege.
It's fine.
But no, I'm excited to get them outside. I really am excited to get them out. I think they're going to be happier and actually easier to work with than inside.
Mm-hmm. Soon. Longer days are coming, friends.
Longer days are coming. But you know what else is coming? A stellar episode. I'm actually really excited. It is our first panel of the year. I know we met with Anise from Amplify Horse Racing. So that was kind of like a mini panel. This is our first panel, and we are talking about reselling thoroughbreds and talking to some pretty badass women who are doing it. And then we also have a really special treat with New Vocation. So normally we feature an adoptable horse. This week, we're going to be giving you like the trading tip of trading tips with their new book. It's going to be awesome. But before we get into all that, we're going to hear from our premier sponsor, Kentucky Performance Products.
Frequently asked questions brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. I know my older horse will benefit from a joint supplement, but can it help my younger horse too? Yes, it can. The joints of young horses experience daily wear and tear that can lead to joint degeneration over time. A well-balanced joint supplement provides the building blocks necessary to support healthy cartilage and synovial fluid so horses stay sounder longer. Joint Armor is the product of choice for younger horses. It provides high levels of both glucosamine and chondroitin plus 100 milligrams of hyaluronic acid. Joint Armor is herb-free, so there is no worry about it testing in show horses. Betsy sent us the following comments after she started her 5-year-old quarter horse mare on Joint Armor. My vet recommended I try Joint Armor. After 10 days, I couldn't believe the difference. She is now floating across the arena and willingly forward with impulsion and suspension. I am thrilled. She is happier too, ears up and a soft eye. Thank you for such a great product. You can learn more about Joint Armor at kppusa.com. Got questions about your feeding program? We can help. Email Karen at questions@kppusa.com or call us at 859-873-2974.
Joy, I'm really excited about this panel. I've been wanting to cook this up for a while. And we have 3 really cool guests with us today to talk about kind of the ins and outs and realities of being a professional horse person in aftercare. So not coming from the nonprofit route, which is a little bit of a departure for us at Retired Racehorse Radio. I mean, I think we talk to a lot of people who do, buy and sell their thoroughbreds, but we haven't ever focused on it as a subject before. So I'm really excited to pick the brains of the 3 fabulous ladies that we have with us today. So we have Aubrey Graham from Georgia, Christina Hobbs from Texas, and Jade Favre from Louisiana, which all happen to be places that are probably much warmer and nicer than where Joy and I are in Michigan and New York, respectively. So that's cool. So we're super excited to have all three of you on with us today. Because there's three of us, we'll take it in turns here and have you ladies tell us a little bit more about, your business model and your program, and of course, what it's called. So Aubrey, we'll go alphabetically. We'll start with you. Welcome to Retired Racehorse Radio.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This is fantastic. Where to start? So I run Kiwi Sport Horses and Training in McDonough, Georgia, so just south of Atlanta. And I do a little bit of everything. I'm a former professor, an anthropologist, and I left academia to do mostly thoroughbreds full time, which is one of those debatable life decisions that I am very happy I have done, but also want to kind of check myself in at points and be like, am I certifiable? What have I done to my life? All the best things. But the business model is basically that I do a bunch of different things. So I am an eventing trainer. I event myself. And so I have a set of students that ride with me, but I've also over the past number of years turned my farm into a retraining and sales facility. So I do consignment. I will have mostly thoroughbreds that come in, though every once in a while somebody wants to kind of punk me and send me a big draft. But so people will send me horses for sale and I will help them get them to new families. And I also buy and sell off the track. So Jade currently has one of my horses who has not made it to my house yet. So I am constantly looking for new horses, shipping horses in, whether they're for myself or other people. And then I work on marketing them to the best people that I can get them out to. And beyond that, so it's kind of a scattershot approach. I do that as like my main thing. And then on top of it, I write for Horse Nation. I write an article series called Thoroughbred Logic, and I run clinics by the same name here. And this year I opened up a thoroughbred school because I got really tired of people coming in to try these horses and having kind of this major eye-opening situation where they were like, wow, these aren't like anything I've ever ridden before and I've ridden my whole life. And so trying to get people better at riding them so they can better buy appropriate horses, whether from people like Jade and Christina or myself or, other people around the country. So without running my mouth any further, there you have it.
That's a well-rounded approach. I like it. I always appreciate an education focus too. So very cool. Thank you. All right. We'll toss it off to Christina.
Perfect. Hard to follow Aubrey. You go in a million different directions. I'm Christina Hobbs, and I run Reciprocity Thoroughbreds out of Aledo, Texas, right outside of Fort Worth. Grew up eventing my whole life, went out and trained with the O'Connor event team for a while, came back and did some jumpers, did the coaching route, the typical horse trainer business model, and just kind of burn out, fell out of love with it, wanted to do something that gave back to the horses strictly, and not so much just economical driven. Obviously, it's an economical and a business as well. So we have to have a balance between the two. But we do focus completely on thoroughbreds. Again, kind of like Aubrey, once in a while, I'll get a consignment horse thrown my way or a training horse someone's struggling with. But we basically buy and sell thoroughbreds. I have a few business partners who help me invest. So we're able to do a good size volume, about 50 plus horses a year. Probably a large percentage of those come from Jade as well, and all over the country. And then as well as doing the resales, we also do take on training and consignment horses, whether that's a problem thoroughbred that just needs some help or it's an actual comes into the training program to be resold. We don't take on consignments just off the cuff, like they go into a training program. We just find they need a little tune up to go on to the sales market anyways. So we found that's the best bet. And yeah, otherwise, that's what we do. Live on a small farm, 12 acres here in Texas with a lot of chickens, my husband and my son, and play with thoroughbreds all the time. So that's us.
Living the dream. Farm, lots of chickens, lots of thoroughbreds. That sounds
lots
great.
of chickens, a sheep, and some cows too. Little funny farm going on here.
I love that. Well, it sounds like everybody gets their horses from Jade. So Jade, tell us a little bit about your business model and what you do.
Yeah, this is Jade. I don't really have a name for my program, I guess. My website is Jade Farm Sport Horses, but I basically strictly rehome from the track. 90% of the time I'm a listing agent, but I do take the occasional one and like I just took one and did surgery on it and did the 30-day stall rest and then found him a home. But I'm mostly a listing agent, and I do about 150 a year. I think maybe a little bit more last year. But like everyone else said, it's all thoroughbreds. Like Aubrey said, sometimes you have to sit back and think, why am I doing this? Because it'll drive you crazy. But I love it. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Being Facebook friends with Jade is like a bad situation if you're an impulsive horse buyer, just from the kind of horses that you have coming and going. So originally, like, we wanted to talk about like, oh, what do you guys like to see in prospects? And we'll get to that. But I have a different question that I was thinking of as I was, doing my own farm chores today. And it feels a little bit sometimes in this industry like there's almost a stigma against saying that we buy and sell thoroughbreds. Like somehow once they're retired from racing, like they need to be like the property of a nonprofit, and the like more suitable word is adopt. But that's not really what you guys are doing, right? Because to me, adoption means that a horse goes through a nonprofit and that there's, a process with that. So let's talk terminology for a minute or two, and I'll go right back into alphabetical order again and start with Aubrey. Do you use the word adopt? Do you use the word sell and buy? And do you think it matters?
So that's a really interesting question. And I'm a complete nerd when it comes to terminology and things like this too. And I really spend a lot of time thinking about this stuff. I really, in terms of the industry that I'm in, and I think everybody else is in for this, though I don't want to speak for anybody, is, the term rescue definitely does not apply to what I do, right? There are a couple cases maybe, but most of the time, because rescue doesn't apply and adopt seems like I wouldn't be making any money. I would need back buyers. I would need a different business plan. And it just doesn't seem to fit what I'm doing, which is really just buying and selling, right? There's a lot of retraining that goes into it. So horses are, on my page, Facebook doesn't let you, it's where we mostly sell these horses, right? But it doesn't let you use the words like for sale most of the time. And it doesn't allow you to put prices up there. So things like saying, available horses, right? But I do sell them. And I think these horses are worth the money that they're going out the door for. And I also think they're worth the money that I'm paying to get them in the door. And so sometimes with adoptions, you start thinking like lower fees, like lower prices. And I think a lot of the US market, coming out of the 90s and early 2000s, were really accustomed to, as you said, like horses going through these nonprofits where you could get a nice thoroughbred for, $500. And the market is very different when we're actually, valuing them without the back buyers, without the support, and having had to put cash up front to get these horses to the door as well. So I think there's a lot with that. And yeah, basically I just use, I'm, recently bought a horse from Jade, and I will turn him around and he will be for sale and available, and all of the other words that we will sub in there to make it, Facebook appropriate to be able to get these horses to new homes, which is another type of thing that we say, or at least I say, right? You want them to get to new families, new homes, but they don't get to go there for adoption prices, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a good point that I think, like so much marketing happens on social media that we do sort of have to jump through hoops, of like, you can say this, you can't say that. You can have a link to a third-party website, but you can't, have a ad that originates on like, whatever. We've all figured out our workarounds. So yeah, that's interesting. So Jade, in your experience, how does that work? I mean, first of all, how does that work? Because I know a lot of your business is done over Facebook, but what kind of language do you use? Do you say, this horse is for sale, or is this horse up for adoption?
I don't really ever say up for adoption, but I'd say I'm probably somewhere in the middle, because rehoming directly from the track, I do oftentimes have ones that have, say, a bow or a chip, or they need rehab, and those are usually freebies. So I'm not necessarily selling those, but for the most part, I sell them. But like I said, I'm probably somewhere in between. And I usually try to link my website because, like Aubrey said, Facebook, there was a point in time where they were really cracking down. It doesn't seem like they're doing that anymore. So I just usually put like available at the very top, and then if they are free, I try to include that in the ad, free to good home with references and a contract or whatever. And then if someone sends me money, I mark them pending. And usually whenever they leave, I mark them as sold. So that's kind of how I do it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And, I also wonder too, if and I haven't actually looked into this, but if there is a legal definition for adopt. I don't know. Joy, do you know anything about that? I might just sort of be sort of pulling at threads there, but if you get it from a nonprofit, it is an adoption versus a purchase. If you get it from,
from a reseller. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's just sort of what I assume, but I don't know. So Christina, how about you? How does that work into your business plan? Are they adoptions or purchases?
No, they're definitely purchases. I mean, I think we've evolved in the aftercare industry to where we're able to branch out, and you guys at Retired Racehorse Project have done a good job in creating demand for these horses and showcasing that there used to be a stigma with adoption of we're stepping these horses down, they're broken, they're beat up, they are adopted, they are rescued, and I think that we've educated the public enough now to where we know these are lovely, talented horses that have had a great start on the track. Many cases have been immaculately taken care of. We have, obviously, like Jade said, the bows, the chips. I have the most beautiful oscillate I got from Jade, and we both love her. But that doesn't mean those aren't even good sport horse prospects. So even those with injuries, we can still market as for sale. I strictly will not ever give away a horse. If a horse is in a situation where it has to be given away from me, it will be care lease, and I will always retain ownership of it. I just don't trust what could happen to the horses I give away. So it's just a way for me to retain ownership, so I am still in control of that horse. If it ever comes to that, it doesn't come to that often. But yeah, no, we definitely do sales, and we're selling nice sport horse prospects. Same with Aubrey, same with Jade. Obviously, she has the ones that are rehab cases as well, but that doesn't even make them not a sport horse prospect. It just makes them a different kind of prospect. So I think there's been an evolution, and adoption is still an awesome thing. And there's so many horses that you have to do it from every avenue, right? Resellers can't do it all. Nonprofits can't do it all. So I think everybody's, transitioning to placing these horses as second careers and not necessarily as rescues, except the handful of cases we see.
Yeah, I think that's key. And I think that's, that's a little bit of the angle that RRP takes, right? Is that there's just not enough room at the nonprofits that we have that are established to take all these horses in. And to be fair, no one really knows. I mean, not even RRP. We can to try to get a handle on the number, but nobody knows how many horses are coming off the track every year because no one's keeping track of that number. And there isn't a good way to keep track of that number. Horses just sort of don't get entered anymore, and you don't really know where they went. So nobody knows how many horses are coming off, but we do know that there's just not enough room for any one branch of this industry to take them all. So I think, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this panel, because we do, we work with New Vocations on this podcast and talk about adoption a lot, but I think it is one route of many that horses can take to get to a second career. So cool. Yeah. Great insight, ladies. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So now we do want to know what you guys are looking for specifically for a good resale prospect. So Christina, I'll send it back to you. Is there anything in particular that you like that you're that's the one?
I think as a reseller, you end up getting almost a gut and an instinct feeling. Obviously, we love a lovely conformation, an uphill build, nicely put together horse. I think the biggest thing is I can deal with little downhill if they're young enough. They're probably going to grow out of it. Just clean legs for the most part, or disclosed injuries. If I know there's an injury and we can take a quick x-ray or something, and I feel like I can place that or they can have a good career, I don't mind taking on something with a little something here or there. But I think clean legs, no, not being over at the knees, not having gigantic ankles all the time. Of course, I'll take on those ones here and there. Sound, baseline, good mover. If we can, we'll try and watch the races and look at the canter. But yeah, just a nicely built horse. I have some bloodlines that I love, Dixieland Band. Now is a stallion to my RRP horse from last year. And I actually have 3 in my barn right now that I've just absolutely in love with what he throws. So it kind of evolves as we see the bloodlines changing as we're breeding these horses. I think everybody has their favorites, favorite sires, favorite dams. And yeah, I think a lot goes into it, but I think there's so many to pick from that we don't get hung up on one thing or another. You're going to have to judge each horse case by case and what you think you can do with them. But I think soundness and clean legs is a big influence.
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to your recent article in Pollock Report on bloodlines. I thought that was a really cool insight. So everybody go check that out at Pollock Report. Christina's featured in an article about bloodlines. Oh,
I didn't even know that was in there yet. So I did that in Kentucky last year. So I'll have to go look at it now.
Yeah. We shared it on the RRP page too this week. So yeah, everybody go take a peek. Aubrey, how about you? What do you like to look for in a prospect? I feel like you have a type, but I don't know if that's just because I've been Facebook friends with you long enough that I see all your horses over and over again.
So Christina nailed a lot of the like intelligent aspects of that, right? Like you want clean legs, you want a lovely conformation uphill, good hip, good shoulder. Obviously, things that are flashy will sell better usually. So if I'm thinking strictly about resale, bays with chrome, or, I'll get to my type in a second, occasionally I will buy a gray. I love chestnuts. I'm an idiot for redheads. I always have been, but they don't have the best resale. So they're actually not necessarily the smart move, but they're my gut move on a regular basis where I'm like, yep, that's great. It's either plain bays or chestnuts. So sometimes, and this gets to one of the questions that may come up later, your heart meddles with your head a bit when you buy these horses, but you do have a gut feeling. And often I will make purchases in one of two ways. One being, this is going to be an excellent amateur horse. Like, I think this horse could be retrained to go do all of the things. And there are bloodlines I like for that. There's a look I like for that. There's a way the horse kind of engages with the world that I look for. And I don't just do buying online. I have a couple of race farms and trainers that I work directly with, which I'm sure Christina does as well. But a lot of people do that when they say, hey, this horse is coming off, half the time I don't even look at photos or videos. I'm just like, cool, when can we get it on a trailer? And because I trust them and they have great horses. And sometimes I'm absolutely surprised at the like amazingly wonderful quality of something that, I just kind of took a guess at and was like, yeah, I think that will be great. And there are other times, like a lot of times with trusting your gut, you just go, oh, there's something about this one. I can't put a pin in it, but maybe I'll sit on it for a couple of days and think. And usually that horse ends up selling very quickly. And you're like, okay, great. Well, that made my decision easy. But yes, I do. So I have two types, right? I have the AMI friendly type that I try to purchase and bring in, retrain, and move a little quicker. And then I have my I'm an idiot and I fall in love with these horses type, where they are often a little bit more difficult. They're sometimes a little more what we would quote unquote say upper level-y, which doesn't mean that they're capable of the upper levels, but they're quirky and they're talented and they're a little bit tough. And those are the ones that I absolutely ridiculously love. And I will take a little longer with the training. And then sometimes, usually because of their personality and their athleticism, they take a little longer to place. So I tend to have two different streams running at once with that. And there's a little bit of a type for each one.
Nice. I feel like that's the type I see you on at the makeover, like the one that's been with you longer.
Or the one that, I don't know, got like 60 days of retraining and the makeover might have been my 25th ride on it because I'm smart.
Was that when I sassed you last year and I was like, don't encourage people to do that. Not everyone can do what you do.
That may or may not have been right after that mare broke my nose. It's okay.
Oh, cool.
Anyway.
Oh, dear. So sort of a modification of that question for Jade, because I know, your business model is a little bit different, Jade, than that you're listing horses, but do you get the option to kind of pick and choose what you want to list, or are you just sort of like a take all comers kind of service?
For the most part, I list everything that people call me about. There are a few people that I do not work with, for whatever reasons, but for the most part, I work with anybody that calls me. And I mostly have my trainers that I've been dealing with for the last 5 years. But, your number gets passed around and you have people call and they're like, hey, I got your number from so-and-so. I have this horse. And, I go look at the horse, whatever. But I love working with my people that I've been working with for 5 years, for sure. And I haven't much this year gone to training. But usually I go to training in the morning and I will pick out horses I did that with Britt's horse Nightmare that she competed on last year. I bought her stallion Houdini to be a racehorse, and he's the slowest creature ever. But he is one of the fanciest thoroughbreds I've ever seen. So I don't know if I should be proud of myself or if I should be ashamed for buying him to be a racehorse. I don't know. But so I do get to pick here and there because I'll be like, oh, I love that horse. But for the most part, it's just whoever calls me to go look at their horse, I go look and see what I can do about it.
Nice. And are people generally pretty receptive to that? You know, if you're like, hey, that's a really nice horse, I think I could help you if it comes time to retire.
For the most part, yes. And I try not say the horse goes and runs last and it's one I've been following. You don't really want to text them right after the race and be like, hey, I love that horse. Can I sell it for you? Because some trainers kind of get in a bad mood about it. So I try to wait until the next day. And I'm just like, hey, just a reminder, I love that horse. When it's ready, let me know. And 99% of the time they're like, yeah, I want it off the bill because they're just so expensive to keep in training. But you catch your occasional one that isn't as receptive as you'd like.
Yeah, which I guess fair. that's their job, and that's what they're trying to work on. But
right. And some people just keep them longer than they should. Like Justin, my fiance, he's kind of like a 3 strikes and you're out. And sometimes they get 1 strike and they're out. And sometimes they don't even get a strike. So we don't really hang on to him for very long. But you have some trainers who they'll just hold on to him for 2 or 3 years and keep holding out hope that they'll win a race.
Gosh,
those are not my favorite trainers. That makes me sad.
Right. Yeah, we've seen horses like that come into the makeover, where the horse has run 37 times and it's still never broken its maiden. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
What made you keep trying that? So
I don't understand how people afford to do it. It's just so expensive to keep him in training. That's why I'm always like, hey, I can get you, X amount of dollars for this horse and it'll be out your barn. So I kind of sometimes appeal to them that way. And it works most of the time.
Well, I think that's a key point too, is that, I think the adoption model works well for owners who can afford to donate the horse to an organization that will, do any necessary rehab, retraining, and adoption. But this reselling or listing option allows that trainer to retain some income on that. It's not going to be the same as if it had a successful race career, but they're still going to get an exchange of value for that animal, especially if it retires sound before they run it,
sure.
40 more times. So so I think it is, a necessary part of the aftercare industry because, that model of donation doesn't work for everybody. So interesting.
I'm also finding this very interesting, writing down notes in some way, because I even think for someone who's not doing this full time, knowing what's in the market and what people are looking for could be helpful if they're interested in doing the thoroughbred makeover, but no, they can't keep a horse long term. So I'll work backwards and start with Jade. What do you find is your target market and what type of horse are they looking for? What are you training for?
I feel like I mostly sell to your vinters, jumpers, dressage type. I feel like I don't sell as much to, the hunter people. Occasionally, they'll really like one and they'll buy it. But for the most part, vinters, jumpers, some Western, and brood mares too, because sometimes I come across mares that look very good and in time will be okay, but maybe they have a little something that will prohibit them from going right into a sport horse home. But definitely for the most part, eventing, jumping, occasionally, I sent one the other day. I looked at the horse twice and I said, this horse is just so quiet. I'm like, he was kind of scraggly looking. I mean, he was very well bred, but he was in a trainer's barn that takes good care of them, but it doesn't look like something coming out of our barn. And so I actually had a lady in Texas that had been looking for her teenage daughter, and she had inquired about a couple, and I just said, hey, I don't think that's the right fit, but this gelding, I was like, this one might work for you. So she bought them, and we were working with the trainer, and she sent me a picture of them a couple of days ago. The little girl's already on them. She's got a big smile on her face. He'll probably never go do anything big or do anything really, but I think he's probably doing what he needs to do. So, I mean, they go and do a lot of things from me for sure.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like the eventing jumper people are what mostly buy them.
Good to know. And Christina, how about you? What do you feel like is your target market or demographic, and what are they looking for in a horse? Like adult AMI friendly, junior friendly, people who are looking to go up levels?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say 85% of the horses are sold as either AMI or junior friendly. That is primarily the market for the off-the-track thoroughbreds that I find, locally and not locally. I'll have a few pros occasionally, but the pros are mainly looking for a nice upper level event type. And those are still really realistically a nice upper level event type is still going to have a really good brain. So really we're looking for a horse with a good brain, and they get pretty marketable based on their movement, their style of jump, their bravery over fences, how willing they are to do the job. There's some horses that don't love the jumping, and we'll sell them occasionally as dressage horses. Those are harder to market. I find that the dressage world hasn't quite come across the road into the thoroughbred market. I mean, it is a little bit, and it's definitely growing. I have found recently, obviously, eventers, jumpers, easy to sell for. A horse has a good brain. Even if it's a little hot forward, we have a nice jumper market for that. I've seen in the last 6 months a big growth in hunter prospects for the Take Two thoroughbred classes are helping to bring that alive in the A circuits. And I think RRP, the hunters have really stepped up at the thoroughbred makeover to really be top-notch hunters. And so I think that the hunter world is coming around to that because not everybody has what they call a warm blood budget. So these trainers are seeing these nicely turned out hunters, and they're starting to be more and more willing to take on a thoroughbred because they see that they can turn into these really high quality horses that can even compete in the derbies against the warm blood. So yeah, definitely amateur friendly are the biggest selling, occasional pros, but definitely English disciplines. I'll have an occasional Western ride. I'll want a barrel prospect, but typically I don't have what they're looking for. They're too big.
And Aubrey, how about you? What are you seeing for your target markets?
Well, hard to follow on both of these. That's great. And basically feel very similar to Christina with that, in that most of this is, horses being marketed to an amateur market and sometimes a junior market, and, a smaller percentage of often young pros, sometimes, more established pro riders. But I've had a few come through that are on the kind of more up and coming, starting their businesses, really want to get a nice horse under the belt that they can get out there and show that they can train and do the things. And that's really fun to be involved in those markets. I will take, because we've, Christina covered a lot of that, right? And same with Jade, it's often the eventing and jumper market, sometimes the hunters. And sometimes it's interesting because I've talked to resellers around the country, and I had someone approach me the other day and they're like, hey, would you help me list horses? And I was like, sure, let's chat. Like, look, I haven't done this before, but I can figure this out. And their comment was, we're getting a lot of people who are not quite athletic enough for these horses, and we feel like you're bringing in a different market. And so all that did, and like that kind of comment aside, but it made me realize that different parts of the country, are getting different demographics of people looking for horses and how you market them. So it's fun to hear that like Christina and I are marketing to a very similar market. Obviously Jade doing a little bit of different work and also selling to a bunch of us three homers along the way. But it's fun to kind of think through like, I wonder why that is in other parts and other areas, that people are getting people, more or less versed or ready for these types of horses. And it does kind of swing this question around to the fun that we get to do, where we have to kind of be like, I don't know if that horse is appropriate for you, which is one of the conversations that I get to have on a semi-regular basis, where it's like, all right, let's see what people are really looking for. And often it's that lovely amateur friendly, people will say kick ride, which is not something I'm comfortable with in the thoroughbred world, because I think they all have a motor at a certain point, and it's not a bad motor. I think their motors are great. They don't have to be hot, but like kick ride makes me think of like the drafts that I've had through.
Yeah.
Where I'm
like I feel like a thoroughbred teaches you to be soft. Like you have to learn to be a soft rider, which is what we should be learning to do.
Absolutely. and I have my big gray horse, Uno, that I got from Jade, actually. His name is Hold'em Paul. And he's fantastic, but people show up wanting to, he weighs like 1,500 pounds. He's giant. He's a 17-hand gray thoroughbred. They think they need to carry dressage with a horse first. I'm like, please take all of that off. Don't touch him. He's sensitive. Right. And he's lovely, but he's still a sensitive ride. So it's trying to find those buyers and that market where people want the motor. And that's why a lot of eventers and jumpers, I think, are so keen for these lovely off-track thoroughbreds, is they want the motor and they know the trainability, the heart, the brain, the athleticism, all the things are already there. It's that I want an off-the-track thoroughbred, but I need it to be a kick ride. I kind of start going, huh. And every once in a while, I absolutely will have one where I'm like, everybody can ride it. But they're a little bit rarer of what I have in my wonderful land of misfit toys and really nice thoroughbreds that all kind of merge in this farm.
I'm just laughing because it makes me think of this video this one time of one of my favorite horses that we ever had. We actually broke him at the track. And there's a video that I have of him. He had just turned around and was going to break off to gallop. And our gallop boy was like pony club kicking him. And super huntery mover. And like everyone thought that was hilarious. And they were like, oh, he wants to be a hunter. He wants to be a hunter. And he actually has made, I think, close to 200,000 and is like probably a 6 or 7 time winner now. But you talking about being a kick ride just made me laugh because I thought of that video where he was like pony club kicking him and we thought he was going to be so slow. And it ended up not being. But continue.
I feel very seen by that comment of like people who maybe aren't athletic enough to ride thoroughbreds. So I feel very called out by that, and I don't appreciate it. So
I'm sitting here squinting at my phone for that one. Are you kidding me, woman?
I know. I was like, I don't think we're talking about you, Kristen.
No. Well, it's fine. My February self is like, nope, I'm not athletic enough to have thoroughbreds. It's fine. Okay, so this is maybe a little bit of I think it's going to be spicy, and it probably won't be as spicy as I think it is. You ladies, especially who are in the reselling business, how does it feel to see that the prices of horses coming right off the track is going up? Because that is a statistic that the RRP in particular is pretty proud of, because, we see a direct correlation between the value of horses retiring from racing going up with, the success of events like the Thoroughbred Makeover and the increased interest in thoroughbreds. So to us, that's a good thing. But if your business model is in acquiring horses and then, putting work into them and then reselling them, how does that fit into your business model? Aubrey, we'll just go back to you.
Cool. Actually, I'm thrilled that they're going up. And I say that partially because I'm a terrible business person. Also, because I'm 100% doing this and in this business for the horses, right? Like I love every minute of every chaotic day with these animals, and it's literally 7 days a week. So I'm a very strangely happy human with this, but I don't necessarily make the best or do the best business decisions. And so knowing that they're coming off of the track with an elevated price, it does cut into my margins significantly. It makes it harder to buy the nice horses. That you have to have more connections. You have to be able to move faster. And then you have to just hope that somebody's willing to let you have them for a price that makes sense in your budget. And so sometimes I just straight up miss out on horses because I just can't afford them. And that sucks. And other times I will pay more than I probably should, which is still not that much, but I'm really excited to see that their value is there, right? Because that means that across the nation, people are really seeing that these horses have a good shot at a second career. It is it is almost like a buoy or a lifeline for them going forward. When something is so cheap, people are much more willing to throw it away. And so when it comes off the track, when these guys come off the track and people are paying real money for nice horses. I mean, Jessica Redmond listed one, I think she listed him for $18,000 the other day, straight off the track as from her reselling. And he was outstanding. And that just makes me really happy. And that was she had put one ride on him, right? She was she got him in, she paid a fair amount for him and put one ride on him and sent him out. And I have so much respect for her business and how she does things. But it's tough because here's the squeeze is that, if I spend $3,500 for a horse off the track, and then I pay to ship it home. I have over $4,000 in the horse before it gets here, and I'm still approached by people on a day-to-day basis saying, do you have anything for the low fours? Right? Low fours being like $2,000-$3,000. And it's like, no, I've already put more than that into these horses, and I haven't even sat on them, let alone all of the vet stuff will go through the, 30 plus, well, in my case, 36 years of riding experience that you're getting every time I sit on one of these things. It's hard to, I guess the squeeze on my end is it's hard to convince people that then they are worth what I'm asking. And you have to really put that time and effort in. It takes a lot of good marketing. It takes a lot of good photography. And I know a lot of people in the industry, we just get inundated with these asks for lower prices than we can buy off the track. And so business-wise, it's difficult, but I'm thrilled for the horses. I'm just also really excited for the knock-on effect when people start to realize that the cost of them through a retrainer, a reseller, a rehomer, where we're putting the time into them, that cost increase is not a questioned thing, right? It's assumed that, of course, they would come off at this, and then you've taken them for 3 months or however long you've had them, 12 days, whatever it is, and that's the cost that you're offering them, and that's fantastic. And sometimes I get that, and sometimes there's still a bit of pushback against it, and you can see it in the groups and the pages and things like that. So anyway, I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say with that too.
Well, and that makes sense because like what people are purchasing at that point is not just the horse, but they're purchasing your professional insight and assessment and, like eyes on this thing. Like, I haven't had enough thoroughbreds that I don't know that I'm completely comfortable going and buying one right off the track, so, that's what I'd be looking to pay for is like Aubrey's assessment that this horse is ready for me, and your like matchmaking abilities. So interesting.
Right. It's the matchmaking, but then it's also, and I know Christina does this a lot too, is we'll have some of these horses here. I mean, hell, I've had Uno for almost a year, right? So some of them stick around a lot longer. And it's trying to play that game of where do you price them based on how long they've been there and how much training you've put in, because now you have a trained horse, not just hey, I've put a couple rides on it and assessed it horse. So you kind of get these different price points and amounts of also just straight up training work that goes into it. So,
right.
Anyway.
And it is like, I get where people might be coming from, right? Like, okay, well, the track trainer who had it or the track owner, he might have paid $75,000 for it as a yearling and he's not getting his return. So like, why can't I also get it for cheaper than, so yeah, like not ethically, but like, you can kind of like put yourself into that rabbit hole of like, whose dollar does it come down to? So yeah, interesting debate. Christina, how about you?
All right, so to unmute myself that time. Yeah, I think Aubrey hit the nail on the head. I'm thrilled for the track trainers, for the owners, that they're getting more money for these horses when they retire. It just means like, again, we've changed the market's mentality towards these horses as they're retiring. Like they're not broken. They're lovely sport horses. Yes, as a reseller, just $3,500 seem like a gut punch sometimes to get a really nice horse. Absolutely. Because it's a business. Does $3,500 for me going to shop for my own potential prospects sound like a lot off the track? No. So I think you have to put it into perspective of who's doing the buying and everything. So I'm thrilled the prices are coming up. I think that means everyone's done their job, even the resellers, right? We've produced lovely horses. We've put them out there. We've marketed to where people see what can come off the track. Great for listing agents like Jade, who work their booties off going around the track to list these horses, gives them a little more money in their pocket, as a commission. So it's really good for everybody. I mean, even for us, if I pay that much for a horse, it's probably more valuable in the long run. I just bought a really lovely bay gelding, paid more than I normally would for him, had an investor step up to help me with him because I just had a gut instinct and I thought he was lovely. And for the first ride on him yesterday, worth every penny. It may take me a little longer to get what I need for him. But I think people just need to realize with resellers, you're eliminating so much risk, right? So like, I feel like we will always have a place and our prices will always be justified because we've swung our leg over the horse the first time, right? You don't know what you're going to get when you come straight off the track. You don't get to go sit on those horses. So we've swung over, again, you've given a professional evaluation of the horse. You've got years of expertise in multiple disciplines to kind of say, okay, this horse is suitable for this, that, and the other. You're looking at a split second on the track. You're looking at less than 30 seconds of jog and a few pictures to buy one. So I still think there always will be a value in the resale industry and the adoption industry. You can just gain so much more information about that horse. So just because prices come up off the track doesn't mean that our prices aren't going to come up also. And I don't know about Aubrey's experience, but I know mine. I've talked a little bit to Jessica as well. I know that we've all started to increase our prices to reflect that. So I think it's just like inflation and anything. You know, one thing goes up and the next thing goes up. Cattle prices go up, meat prices go up. So I think we'll see that throughout the resale industry. And yes, there will be growing pains, but I don't think no reseller I talk to is upset about it. Like Aubrey said, sometimes we have to pass. Sometimes we just don't have the money for that in our budget and it stinks. But, you know, the horse will sell, the horse will get a lovely home, and that's what we're all in it for. So,
yeah, that's a more upbeat take than like, I mean, you're both very positive people, so I wasn't expecting anything too doom and gloom, but you know, we sort of see it like anecdotally, you know, on social media that people are like, well, the price for the retrained ones hasn't come up, so it's too hard to make a living doing this. And, you know, I do think that there is a bit of a trickle up, I guess, with that, you know, but yeah, as you said, maybe it's just a little like it's not going to all happen at the same time. Right. So, but if people are appreciating the value and willing to pay for the time and the energy that you've put in, you know, that'll catch up eventually too. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. And those are the kind of buyers we want to handle anyways, right? Well, like we want those people who are appreciating what we're doing and realistic. And that's why people go to resellers versus straight to the track, because some people have had bad experiences. Some people just, like you, Kristen, you're saying, I don't feel like comfortable going to the track yet. Like I don't know enough about the horses to make a judgment off a 30-second video. So I don't think our businesses are going away because of the prices. I just think we may see a slowdown, which is fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to add, it's a fraction of these imported warm bloods or even some of the quarter horses in the market. I think people need to put in perspective. There's a lot of love care and veterinary bills and training fees and shows to get these horses in a place where they are ready to go to those adult amateur friendly or junior AMI friendly homes.
Yeah, good point. So Jade, you're probably like the most like boots on the ground at the track. So I'm interested in your experience and your, you know, years doing this. Have you like, how much have prices come up? I guess like we know from what we're measuring that we think they're coming up, but like you're there. So you tell us.
Well, I feel like my prices have stayed pretty similar. You know, they've maybe gone up a little bit, but for me, most of the trainers tell me, hey, you price them. And most of the time they're priced to move, because most people don't realize that at the track you have limited stalls and you have owners that are paying anywhere from $70 to $120 a day for a horse at the track. So, you know, you can price them at $3,000 and you can wait for them to sell for 10 to 14 days, or you can price them for $2,000 and you can have them sold in that day or the next day. So for me, like I'm kind of looking out for the owner in that aspect because, you know, my husband trains. So I know what it's like to be an owner. It's very expensive. So I don't want to sit there and try and get extra money when in reality it's not extra money, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah.
I try and price them. I don't want to say like where they just sell to anybody, but I try and price them where they're going to go to the right home, but they're not going to sit around for 2 weeks.
Priced
but
to
I
sell.
feel like the prices have come up a little bit in the 5 years I've been doing it here. And I have the occasional trainer that'll be like, I want $5,000 for this horse.
Interesting.
And I'll be like, well, you know, I mean, you might be able to get that. You know, you might have to sit on it for a little while, which one guy did, but I think he ended up selling her for like 4, but he had to sit on her for like a month and a half. I'm like, why wouldn't you have just sold her for 4 from the get-go? And then you wouldn't have had to hold her for a month and a half.
Right.
So for me, I'm trying to price them where they can get into their new homes. The trainer gets their stall. The owner isn't paying $70 for a horse to just sit in the stall.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And that, you know, that sort of service aspect, you know, sometimes you have to do what you have to do for the horse, which is, you know, a very
Right.
horse positive way to be. So great. Well, ladies, this has been really, really interesting. I feel like, Joy, we should have them all back on again for like another one in next winter or something, because this was really fun. And I feel like, we had a list of like 8, 9 other questions that we could get to, but we'll keep these ladies around all night. So we better not. So we'll just roundtable go around one more time. And you guys can just remind us where to find you on the internet, any social media presence you have, so that listeners who want to learn more can give you a follow. So Jade, we'll start with you.
So almost all of my listings are on Facebook, and I do try to keep my website up to date, but I'm not the best at it. But it is jadefarbsporthorses.com, and that's basically it. Facebook and it are basically all I do.
All right. Good to know. Easy to find. Lots of lovely horses coming across your feed. Christina, how about you?
Yeah, so we are a website work in progress. I am 3 years behind on that. Too much time in the barn, but you can find us on Facebook. Our business page is kept super current with the horses. It's Reciprocity Thoroughbreds. And my name, Christina Hobbs. If you can't seem to spell that the right way, you can look for my name and then it'll be linked through my personal page. So we keep those really active and try and keep you posted as quick as we can when they come in and when they're placed.
Lovely. And Aubrey, where can people find you?
Great. So people can find me at my website, which is kivusporthorses.com. And that I have to spell because nobody's going to get it. It's Kivu. That's a nod to the province in the Congo Democratic Republic of the Congo, where I did my field work as an anthropologist. So it confuses everyone. But that is my sales page there is very, very, very current, and I keep that up to date. And then otherwise it's on social media at Facebook. I put most things out there under my personal page, which is AP Graham, or AP Graham Eventing has most of the listings as well. And that's the same name for Instagram.
All right. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. This has been really, really cool. And I hope listeners enjoyed this as well. It's definitely a deep dive into a different side of the thoroughbred industry. And we have so much more we could cover. So maybe we'll have you all back on again sometime. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
guys.
I'm here with Tony from Cashel. You all know it from the ads you hear all the time on this show. But we're at the trade show, and this is the point of time in the year where we find out what's new coming out. So what's Cashel have new coming out?
Oh, we've got a great lineup of 32, 34 wool top pads.
So describe them.
5 different colors, real vibrant, bright, sharp-looking pads.
What makes them different?
Well, it's the fill. The wool felt on the inside is a natural felt, and the fleece on the bottom is 100% merino.
Oh, really? Okay. So these are soft and squishy pads.
Well, not real squishy, but soft, and they do absorb shock and saddle fit.
What would they retail for? What are those?
That's about $119.
That's the right price. Yeah. Anything else new with Cashel coming out?
Oh, we've got more saddle pads coming in the fall, new strap line coming in the fall. It's a two-tone that looks great with a great buckle set on it. We're always in development, so there's so many projects in the works.
What's still your most popular product? Is it still always the same things year after year?
Fly. You bet.
Yeah,
fly
that's what we all do.
It.
That's how I knew you in the first place was fly masks. Yep.
Yeah, many years ago, we were primarily fly masks and kind of had some tush cushions and a few odds and ends. Today, we've broadened that offering to saddlebags, strap, head stalls, breast collars, bell boots, leg protection, and it continues to grow.
Is there a place where somebody can go and see all the products?
CashelCompany.com will give you a good offering.
There you go. Well, thank you, Tony. It's been fun seeing you again.
Hey, thank you. Good to see you.
Well, Joy, that panelist discussion really got me thinking, because that is very much the theme of the Retired Racehorse Project's Aftercare Industry Month, which is running now through the month of February. The Aftercare Industry Month is geared towards every part of aftercare, not just, the nonprofit and adoption side, which is, I think, where most people in the industry tend to go. And I feel like we just kind of got like a almost a mini introduction in that panel discussion, which was really cool. By the time this episode comes out on February 10th, the first session for Aftercare Industry Month will have already taken place. And it is exactly about what we just discussed about making aftercare your full-time job. But there are still 3 great sessions ahead in Aftercare Industry Month, and registration is still open. So you can register either for individual sessions that sound interesting to you, or you can just pay one small fee and register for the whole month. And then all recordings will be available as well. So that's for anyone with any level of professional interest in aftercare. Head to the rrp.org/aftercare-industry-month to learn more.
We continue our Barn Building 101 series with Morton Buildings. In this segment, Glenn chats with Dennis about the style of horse stalls available.
Welcome to Barn Building 101, brought to you by Morton Buildings at mortonbuildings.com.
Well, Glenn here, founder of the Horse Radio Network and host of Horses in the Morning, and we are continuing our educational series right now on building yourself a barn that you're going to be happy with from now into the future. As you know, we've done a couple of these educational series, one on insurance and one on trailers that have proved to be very popular, and you guys wanted to hear about barns. So in this part 2, we have Dennis Lee with us. He's equestrian product line manager at Morton Buildings, and in this part, we're going to discuss the style of horse stall that you want. There's so many different styles. And if you missed part 1, go to horseradionetwork.com/barn to take a listen. Well, talking about stalls, Dennis, there are so many things to think about. And of course, materials you're making out of it is one of the things, size and all that stuff's important. But also, what are the walls? What are the doors? What's everything made out of?
Yeah, so that's a huge consideration for clients to make. We want to build a safe, very functional, as well as a stylish stall. Your horse spends the majority of their time in a barn in a stall. The majority of injuries in stall barns occur in the stall. So, the quality of materials is absolutely paramount in a horse stall. Actually, the number one cause of injury in stall barns is actually a backed out fastener in your stall lumber. So, we want to make sure that we're using a heavy duty ring shank hand drive nail or a good heavy duty structural screw. Many builders will use nail guns just for speed and cost, and those nail gun nails will almost immediately start to back out, and you can have all sorts of injuries from backed out fasteners. The lumber your stall is built from, we use a number 1 grade Southern Yellow Pine tongue and groove 2x8. Many builders will use either just a spruce pine fir or a lower quality softwood type of square edge plank for cost. Yellow pine is the strongest of all the softwoods, so that's the reason that we use it. And many builders will use a tongue and groove board in the stall front for aesthetics only, whereas we use a tongue and groove board throughout the entirety of the stall so that the 2 boards lock together to help prevent separation or splintering when a stall is kicked.
Doors this is one that we've had this discussion on our show before, and that's sliding doors versus hinge doors. And it's kind of one of those discussions that people either fall one side or the other. What do you find when you're having that discussion with people?
That's a very polarizing opinion, typically.
I've had both, and I could argue for both in court. I really
exactly.
Could.
Yeah. I come from the Western world. We have reiners, rein cow horses, versatility ranch horses. So the sliding style stall door seems to be much more steeped in our history. The sliding stall door is probably the most basic, the most utilitarian. It saves the most amount of space in the barn aisle, and generally speaking, it's going to be the least expensive. As far as a hinged front style stall, we typically see those in what's referred to as a European or Euro style stall front. You'll see those a lot in hunter jumpers, dressage, warm blood type horses, some of the polo type communities where you don't have the large track across the front. It's more like a scalloped front European style.
So one of the things too you don't want to skimp on is hardware on the sliding doors, because we've all been to that barn that they just don't work because the hardware is just terrible. Good hardware on a sliding door is a necessity if you want to use it after 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, quality is key. So we see a lot of stall fronts that are kind of self-assembled or just cobbed together with local hardware. You want to have a stall front that really is designed to work together, not just a high quality Durlin type of roller that will last longer than a cheap galvanized roller. A good quality latching system. Our stall doors will actually latch in any position throughout the travel of the door. So if you want to open the door a foot and latch it, place your wheelbarrow in front of that opening, go in and muck your stall, the horse can't bust out past you. So that's a really well-designed latch. And then on your sliding doors, a door keeper system or a door retainer system on the bottom. So the door can't be pushed away from the stall, either in its open or closed position. So yeah, a good, well-designed hardware system on your stall front is very important.
And then the other thing with hinge doors, if you have stalls opposing each other on opposite sides, you need a wider aisle than you would
Absolutely.
with a sliding door, right?
So yeah, your stall doors really need to be 4 feet wide to give room for horse and handler to pass. So if you have a 12-foot wide barn aisle and you have a 4-foot wide door open on either side of the stall or either side of the aisle, you're greatly reducing the travel area in that barn. Also, if a lot of these hunter jumper type programs will have tack trunks in front of their stalls, so take into consideration where that door is going to swing when you have tack trunks placed in front of the stalls.
So what safety considerations should you take into account when you're planning for your stalls? I mean, we've all had, if you've had horses for any amount of time, all of us have had the cast horse, right? I don't care what the stall, how big the stall is or what it's made out of. We have to deal with that. But how can we do the best we can to avoid injury?
So a good safe footing in your stall. We love stall mats and a well-compacted base. A door that is no less than 4 feet wide. 4 feet is by far the most common in the industry. I personally prefer to place a sliding stall door on the right-hand side of the stall, sliding to the left when you walk in front of it. So, typically we're going to lead a horse in our right hand. And if your stall door slides from right to left, you can grab that door latch, slide the stall to the left, and you can enter the stall with the horse without ever having to cross paths directly in front of the horse. We know directly in front and directly behind are the no-go zones on horses. So if that stall door slides right to left, you can open, enter, and release the horse without having crossed in front of them.
So we've talked about sliding versus swinging. What are the other considerations for stall doors?
So there's several different design styles when it comes to stall doors themselves. Our basic entry-level stall door is going to be a pipe top with a tongue and groove lumber fill bottom. We also have options for operable yoke tops, so your horses can hang their heads out when you want to and close it when you don't want them to. We also offer a pipe top and pipe bottom. Now, when we go to a pipe bottom door, we do reduce the spacing of that pipe in the bottom. So if you had a mini or something, they couldn't get a hoof between the pipes and the bottom of that door. I'm personally a huge fan of the pipe bottom door because you can walk down the aisle of your barn and in an instant you can look into that stall. You can see if a horse is cast. You can see if the stall is clean. You can see if they've got their blanket wrapped around their legs. You can there's so much advantage to being able to see into the bottom of that stall. It also promotes airflow and increases light.
What do you guys use for your posts? Are you using 6x6s, 8x8s, 4x4s? What are you using for your corner posts?
So we pioneered the laminated wood column system way back in the late 70s, early 80s. So rather than a solid sawn post, we use a column that's built in a press that's multiple layers of 2x6s or 2x8s, depending on the barn design. Typically, it's 2x6. So you'll have 3 number 1 grade 2x6s put together in a press. And this gives you a stronger, straighter column than what a solid post would. We also use what's called the Morton Foundation System, which is a precast concrete lower column. So we no longer put treated wood in the ground. So we have a precast concrete pier that we embed a minimum of 4 feet in the ground, and then we bolt that laminated column to that pier once it's up above the grade.
So you're digging the hole, and then you have this pre-made concrete thing. You drop it in the hole, and then the post goes in that concrete.
That's correct.
Oh, that's interesting. That's probably much quicker for you guys to do too than doing it the other way.
It is. It's better than a solid sawn post for many reasons. If we've all seen even the highest quality 6x6s or 4x6s will have one big knot in them that compromises the whole post, or they twist. They're really bad for twisting and cupping.
So that's the basics on stalls. In the last segment we did, which you can still go back and listen to at the link I gave you earlier, we talked about the building itself. But one of the things we didn't discuss is what the exterior is made of, whether it's metal or wood or cladding or any of that. So what do you guys recommend? What do you do the most?
So our most common cladding, both roofing and siding, is a 26 gauge PVDF painted system. So, not all colored.
That's metal, right?
Yeah, metal. What a lot of people refer to as tin.
Mm-hmm.
Not all corrugated metal roofing and siding is created equal. There's actually vast differences in different qualities and materials. So gauge refers to the thickness of the material. And when it comes to metal thicknesses, the larger the number, the thinner the material. So a lot of builders, especially your low-cost budget builders or DIY type kits, will use a 29 gauge material.
Seen. 26 and 29 are the two I've seen.
Yeah, so 29 is about 20% thinner than the 26 that we use. And then another big difference is the paint that's used on it. We use a 70% PVDF, which is a big fancy expression for a very high quality exterior finish that resists fade and chalking for a long period of time, where a lot of your lower cost builders will have a polyester based paint, which will fade and chalk and crack and peel rapidly. And the other consideration is fasteners. So we use a stainless fastener with a color matched head. We found that a lot of the rust and failure on metal roofing and siding begins at a low quality fastener. So choosing a very high quality fastener is paramount. Now, that's our standard, and the most common, the most durable, and probably the most cost effective. We also offer, shingle roofs, which everybody's familiar with a shingle roof. As far as siding goes, we can also do, brick, stucco. We do a lot of hardy lap or hardy board and batten, or some of the cement board type sidings. And those are all style related considerations that we'll discuss with the homeowners.
I do pity the people who have to put up the hardy board, because I have seen hardy board and I've tried to lift a 4x8 sheet of hardy board. Mm-hmm. It's made of concrete. I mean, it
is concrete.
It's really heavy.
Hardy is beautiful, but it also has a maintenance component, so it will have to be painted every 10 to 15 years. Now, if you're trying to match a home that has hardy, we love doing hardy because it just looks amazing, but just keep in mind it will have a maintenance aspect to it over time.
And it's heavy as heck.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, this has been great. Thanks, Dennis, for joining us again. If you're looking to build your stable or stall barn or riding arena, a Morton building is professionally built for your functional needs and your horse's safety and budget. Save now through February on new buildings during their Building Value Days. And you can learn more at mortonbuildings.com/project/equestrian, or you can just scroll over on your podcast player and we'll have the link right there so you don't have to remember it. But Morton is the leader in buildings in this country, and I certainly know a lot of people that have Morton buildings and absolutely love them. Thanks, Dennis, for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, Kristen, I am super excited because it is our time to bring on new vocations back with our show. And today we have Winnie Morgan Nemeth and a special guest. We have Dot Morgan, who is the founder of New Vocations. So it kind of feels like we have a celebrity on with us at the same time.
I know, we're a little starstruck. We're like,
a little
Dot's
bit.
Here. Yeah.
We may have fangirled for 5 minutes, but that's okay. Welcome, Winnie and Dot, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for being here, because it is a kind of special treat. We're going to have a little more unique segment. Normally, we're featuring a training tip in our adoptable horse of the week for someone who may be new to our show. But this time we have a little bit different training tip offerings, and one we think listeners will really like. Some of you may be familiar with a book that New Vocations put out called Beyond the Track, and it focused on thoroughbred training. But now we have a new book on the standardbred side called Track to Trail that Winnie and Dot have put together. Winnie, would you like to introduce the book and sort of how it came to be?
Sure. So the book is called Track to Trail, A Simple Guide to Transitioning Standardbreds from Racehorse to Riding Horse. And all of, the many years of working with New Vocations, and obviously Dot started New Vocations, we just felt that there needed to be something on retraining the standardbred that would be a simple guide. And it was really important that we start with what the horses knew and like what their background is, because so many people are not familiar with harness racing. So it starts with that perspective, if a standardbred is right for you, and going into what they know at the track. And then it goes into transitioning the horse, and then it goes into what your standardbred wants you to know from the horse's perspective. So it is a very thorough and easy to read guide with great photographs that we did at our New Vocations facilities, and then pulled things from the U.S. Trotting Horse Association that helped us with our racetrack photos. But really, Dot gets the credit because she has the many, many years of experience of transitioning over 1,000 standardbreds, that she could offer that perspective, as well as, being involved herself in harness racing.
That's amazing. That is like an incredible, like life's work amount of horses transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've never gotten to speak with Dot before. So Dot, welcome on. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about your experience with the standardbreds in particular, because I think I come from RRP side. So of course I'm thinking like, oh, New Vocations and it's thoroughbreds, but the standardbreds is a huge part of what you guys do. So, what's your background with standardbreds, and, what kind of inspired you to get New Vocations started?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm married to Winnie's dad, 5th generation harness horse trainer driver. So, it was a natural for me. My dad had brood mares, standardbred brood mares, and we raised yearlings and sold them, but we didn't have anything to do with racing. Then as a teenager, my first job was at Louisville Downs, and I worked in the racing office. I worked for the veterinarian. One season, I worked as a groom, a couple of seasons, all while I was going to college, and then married my husband, and we trained in racehorses for a living for 50 years. So, but what got me involved with New Vocations was when I learned from a dealer that was picking up horses at the track where we were training, what was happening to the horses. And that was about 1991 in the fall. And I just happened to approach him and say, these horses that you're getting, are they all broken down and lame? And he said, no, they're not, but they're crazy. Who would want them? By the time I get to the sale, 2 or 3 of them have fallen down and the rest are walking all over them. And that was the first I had a clue about the slaughter issue. I was on an OHHA board. I was on Ohio Standardbred Breeders Board. We were very active in all the horsemen's organizations that had to do with standardbreds. And we did not know that these horses were going to be slaughtered. We just thought, oh, they're picking them up. They're taking them somewhere. We have room now for another horse. So I had a 4-H club at the time. Winnie was in it. Anna was in it. We had some really good horse kids in it. And I thought, this is crazy. My 4-H members are riding mutts, basically, because they can't afford better. And these horses are being butchered because nobody wants them. And I said, somebody just has to stand in the gap for them. They're wonderful horses. I knew the horses. They're athletic horses. I rode them when I was a kid growing up in Kentucky. The standardbreds, I'd get on the broodmares bareback and ride them. So it was a crime, and nobody was doing it. So I researched. There was a Standardbred Retirement Foundation, a Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. Nobody was adopting them. Well, those are good, but they're dead end because you can only take so many for life and then you're full. So it's really not able to serve very many in the industry. So that's when New Vocations was born. And we started out, it was just my personal mission, adopting about 40 horses a year for the first 6 or 7 years until a prominent thoroughbred breeder twisted my arm very, very hard and basically demanded that I turn it into a 501c3 because he wanted to be able to write his horses off. And but he was more of a visionary than that. He said, Dot, if we'll turn it into a charity, it will become a national charity. And that wasn't what I had in mind at all. It was just my personal mission. But he said, the industry needs this. He knew that way before anybody else did.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's how I got into transitioning the horses. I had ridden standardbreds growing up, just because I rode anything that had 4 legs, and that's what we had in our fields. And it wasn't unusual for us to ride some of my husband's horses, especially ones that were really rank and hard to handle at the track, hard to exercise, like they would just want to go too fast. They would be great under saddle. They wouldn't take their anxieties with them under saddle. They knew they were race horses, but once you rode them, they were like, oh, well, this is fine. I can do this. We had horses in the beginning, literally, that were dangerous runaways at the track, and absolutely kids' horses under saddle.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So there was a need for aftercare for these horses. And at that time, of course, there's always been an Amish market, and there's still a strong Amish market, but the Amish aren't real good with lamenesses and injuries, and those horses often end up going into the slaughter pipeline if they're not going to be sound enough to be Amish horses, but most of them will be sound enough to be riding horses.
Yeah, that's where my little guy came from, actually, my standardbred. So that's awesome. Yeah, so that's cool knowing that it came, from more of a standardbred experience that inspired this whole thing. And I love the idea for this book because I don't think that there is any publication like it out there. Like, I feel like now Thoroughbred Aftercare has kind of got a lot of momentum behind it. And certainly it's not like, we haven't quote unquote fixed a problem, but we're working on it. And on the standardbred side, it just feels like it's not quite as far along. So having a resource like this is so critical. So what do you hope that people are getting out of the book?
Well, I made it very simple. There's a lot of experts out there, experts in eventing and dressage and barrel racing and polo. This is just simple. This is like, you got your horse. You need to know what he knows. It's really not that hard, and you can be on the trails in a very short time. And there's a substantial standardbred retraining group on social media, has like 10,000 people. And there's all the time people in there that are getting horses from auctions, Amish, kill pens. I've got the standardbred. I don't know what to do with it. And all of their advisors there make it too complicated. It doesn't have to be that complicated. It's really, really easy, but you have to do a few basic things right, or you'll get in a train wreck. And then you can, once you understand the simple steps and you get them riding, well, then if you want to learn dressage and eventing and barrels, well, yeah, go ahead and work on that. But don't get so complicated right off the bat.
I love that. Like keeping it simple. And we talk about it every training tip, whether it's Winnie or Leandra coming on the show, thoroughbreds or standardbreds, it's all about the foundation that you're creating that will set your entire trajectory. So Dot, in your experience, and Winnie, feel free to jump in too. What have you found to be the most critical place, and I'm sure this is in the book, but most critical place to start when that standardbred gets to your farm?
Well, if the horse has never been ridden, the most critical step is getting on that horse without scaring the bejesus out of him. Just getting on the horse safely and so that the horse is competent. And that is the hardest thing. And people that do that wrong and that horse bolts, then it's going to be hard to get that out of him after that. He's subject to bolt from then on. And you just don't want that kind of behavior. So mounting the horse for the first time is really critical.
Yes, I would agree with that. And it is very simple, but it is definitely something that needs to be done correctly the first time, because I have found that, our horses that have raced a lot, our war horses, tend to have a harder time with that first feeling that rider sit on their back for the first time and they look back and rider. We've talked a lot about, they go in a blind bridle, so they're not used to looking behind them and seeing someone on them, that, they just pretty much could sit down, or if you don't have two people helping you, it could be could go really bad. But then it can also, they take a big breath and relax, and you pet them and talk to them and they walk forward and all is well.
Once they're comfortable with a rider, which can happen in one day, one session, 2 or 3 sessions, usually for sure it'll be done, then you can just move right on from there pretty quickly. You can move on from there so quickly that you actually have to slow yourself down, that you don't overdo it, because once he understands he's comfortable riding you, he'll take you wherever you want to go, as long as you want to go, but he'll also get very sore because he's not used to balancing a rider. So you don't want to push him too much in the beginning that way, but you can get the whole process done in a week or 2. You can be on the trails if you know how to do it. Yeah.
It really sounds like almost the same practices to breaking a young horse, just bringing them slowly, building the trust, taking your time and not rushing to scare them, making every experience positive. So in some ways, and I hope this is not wrong to say, it's almost sounds like a little bit easier than necessarily taking a thoroughbred off the track and retraining, because they do have a perception of riding. And you have to switch their brain to being a sport horse versus a racehorse, where the standardbred's almost starting fresh.
I think it is easier because they don't have to unlearn going fast under saddle. But now they don't know how to canter, and that's one of the drawbacks that people have. They can all learn to canter. They all cantered as babies, but they have been drilled so much on their trot or their pace that they're much more comfortable there. So if you want to canter your standardbred, you need to have an instructor, or you need to be skilled enough yourself to do it. And there's some tips in there about getting it, and you certainly can. But most of the standardbred riders, at least the trail riders, don't care anything about the canter. They can trot or rack or pace faster than any other horse can canter, and they're quite comfortable doing it. So I'd say the majority of the people that ride standardbreds don't really care about the canter.
Amazing. Well, I'm excited to learn more in the book. And, for our listeners, this is your sneak preview and things you'll be learning. So make sure you get a copy. I have one more question, Winnie and Dot. It's more of a fun question, but Winnie, what was it like writing a book with your mom?
Oh, it was, well, when we first talked about it, of course I thought it was great. Quite a few years ago, we had a perspective of like what your thoroughbred wants you to know. And after answering these questions and seeing, like Dot mentioned on the Facebook group, the retired, retraining the racehorse, Facebook group, there's many out there, you see the same question over and over and over. And so her and I were both on the same page that this is something we absolutely need to do. It did take some planning, and thankfully we had a lot of great photographs to choose from, from our own archives from transitioning all the standardbreds we have. And we worked with some great photographers. And then we had set up a few photo shoots and got the, some other things that we needed. But overall, it was just really fun to see it all come together, because we feel like we answer these questions every day, all the time, especially with adopters if they're having problems and they're reaching out. So I'm just really excited that it's done now and out, but there's nobody better than Dot to write the book. She definitely is the expert.
I love that. So ladies, where can people get the book?
So we are going to be launching this book the week of February 14th. So Valentine's week. It will be a live link on our website, newvocations.org. We have a shop tab that you will see, and we're still working on pricing the book, but it will be under $20. So, and it's 80 pages long.
Perfect. And that's like education for a bargain price is key, folks, and I think education is such an important part of, rehoming any racehorse of any breed. So, hats off to you guys for what you guys are doing over at New Vocations. So newvocations.org or horseadoption.com, folks, check it out. Keep an eye on our social media, because Joy and I, rumor has it, we might be getting some advanced copies to preview. So we will share our thoughts with you guys too when we get those. So Dot and Winnie, thank you so much for joining us today. We really look forward to seeing this book coming out.
Well, thank you so much for having us. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, thank you guys.
You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on the website at horseradionetwork.com. Like us on Facebook and Instagram, just search for Retired Racehorse Radio. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. You can find me on Instagram at The Horseback Rider and on Facebook at Jobber Bill, Racehorse to Ranch Horse. My email is kbentley@therrp.org.
You can find me on Instagram at Misfit Mare, and my email is joy@horseradionetwork.com. Thanks to our sponsors, Kentucky Performance Products, Cashel Company, and Morton Buildings, and to our partners, New Vocations Racehorse Adoption Program and the Retired Racehorse Project. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network, part of Equine Network, at horseradionetwork.com. Remember to set your goals high and love to learn from every ride.
And add more leg.
Bye, guys.